get to talk today.
Yeah, me too. Thank you.
So I want to ask you first to introduce yourself, because I recently have come to an understanding that it's wonderful to give women an opportunity to speak for themselves and describe for themselves who they are. So please share.
I'm like the worst at doing that. Um, so I am Nicole, the co-founder of Be Well with Nikki, and most recently in Your Wisdom Wellness. And use poetry as a means to get people thinking about things or take them out of their norm, just like, you know, inspirationally, like give them something to think about. And on the business side with clients, I work with reducing stress, reducing anxiety, getting a handle on your emotions so that they aren't the ones in control and you are. Just helping you get your power back, especially if you run a business, because one, leadership is top down and employees are looking at you. They're learning from you, whether you realize it or not. So if I can start from the top and help let that trickle down, that's my goal as well. I'm retired military. I retired about 5 years ago now, and I was in the Army. Yeah, and IT was my background, and that's so far from what I'm doing now, but it's good stuff. But yeah, I live in the DC area, and I love seeing people thrive and soar and succeed. So a friend of mine called me Queen of Calm, so I'm your Queen of Calm, but I'm also your cheerleader. Like every time you win, I celebrate, no matter who it is.
I love that.
Thank you.
For you, especially Queen of Calm. Fire. Thank you for, I know, putting you on the spot and describing who you are.
It's all good. Hopefully that was good enough.
Wonderful, wonderful. I know from your work too, and you certainly are the Queen of Calm. I've gotten to experience your gifts in that way as well. So thank you for that. I've been really curious as, so you and I got to know each other as coaches and from our work perspectives. Then I started seeing you show up on social media with some videos of some poems that you wrote, spoken word kinds of stuff online. And lately you've been doing, whether it's, I don't know if you have videos that I've missed recently, or if it's more, I've been catching a lot of your haikus, which are just so very simple and often calming and reassuring and concise, and eloquent is the other word. It's just like, yep, that's it. We got to talk. I mean, just in general, I love it. And I've been so curious about where there might be intersections between your writing and your work and with leaders, because it is so very much like, I just get that sense of calm comes over me just from reading your poetry. I figured that with the book club that I started in January, we focus on a different book every month. And it's not so much important that you read the book as it is that we can take in, process, integrate the lessons or the information or whatever, or inspiration. And so May has been about poetry. And so it's not even like a particular poet or a particular book of poetry. It's like, who's your favorite poet, or what's your favorite poem? So who's your favorite poet, or what's your favorite poem?
Oddly enough, I have not really read or followed a particular poet.
Yep.
I just started writing, and actually I found, like a couple of years ago, I found a book that was published from elementary school. I had a couple of poems in there that were published. And I mean, it was published within the school. It wasn't like on a shelf in a store or anything, but the school published students' poems. And I saw that I had a couple of poems in there. I was like, that's crazy. I didn't remember doing that. So it's interestingly not something I've studied to that degree. I just write.
Yeah.
So there is a young lady whose poetry I do like, and I see her face and I can't remember her name, so I will send that to you. Please. When we're done. She was actually introduced, not directly, but when I was doing Clubhouse more frequently, we were in a room and there's one of the young ladies that comes into that room and she shares one of the lady's poems every now and then. There was actually one day the young lady Casey who runs that particular room, she found that poet, invited her to the space, and she actually came. So we got to actually speak to her. It was so cool. Yeah. And so I was like, yep, I'm a fan. Just her being personable, and then just her words are very, very moving, deep, and inspirational too. So yeah, I'll find her name. I follow her on Instagram.
Yeah, send me her name, and then I'm going to do some digging around and find a poem or two of hers to put in a collection. I love discovering new authors, new writers, new messages in whatever way. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, okay, then I did want to ask you, because when I first started seeing your videos online, I remember you mentioning something about how it's like a recent inspiration for you. So I didn't know if it was just a recent inspiration to share them or actually to write poetry. Where did it come from that you've been writing and sharing like this? How'd that start?
So started writing poetry. I know what happened. So I joined this writing, it's like a 30-day writing challenge on Twitter. You ship 30 for 30. I tried to do it the first time. So you were like writing quick atomic notes or whatever. So it was like really quick things. The first time I tried to do it, I just couldn't just like write normal, like people were writing a lot, and I did not finish that first challenge. The second time I joined, I found a question like how to get to know yourself. So I took those questions as prompts, and I wrote like Twitter length poems as a reply to those questions. It just flowed so freely and easily for me. I was like, this is insane and fun. I actually finished that challenge because I wrote 30 poems. It was very short, but a poem to each prompt. It came so much more easier than atomic essays. It was like I could not write that long form writing as well or as easily. And it was just to write 30 of those, I was like, yeah, this is it. The poems just came so much easier, and it was exciting. There were like, I don't know, 20, 30 questions. What was fun is like, I wasn't sure what was going to be the next question. I made sure I didn't look ahead. So it was kind of like a surprise every day, like, ooh, what am I going to write about today? That's how that started. The haiku started, a friend of mine who's like, I was telling him that I write poetry, and he was like, there's a lady on Facebook that publishes a haiku every day. I was like, ooh, send me her page. And he did. I was like, I can do haikus. Then that's when, if you see when my first haiku was right before that post, I shared one of hers because it was really, I love the way that she wrote. I've been pretty much doing them ever since. I was actually surprised because before that I hadn't really written a haiku, and I was surprised how easily that also came. So, yeah.
Man, it's so interesting to me because so the essays would be something that I would jump on faster because I'm like, oh, well, I might screw up. I got a lot of words to fix it if I'm writing a whole essay. So to me, it's like if I have more room and more possibility of words, I feel, okay, great. I'm just going to get going. I'll fix it later. When I think of a poem, I think, man, like Twitter size or, haiku size, it's such a small, precise, to me, that's like the daunting thought. It's so interesting that that's what put you in flow.
Yep. You know how it's kind of what comes to mind is that concept of having too many choices.
Yeah.
Like the constraints help me stay focused. Like if it's wide open, my mind is just too much for me. It's like I can do this or this or this, or then if I can do this, the constraints help for me. Because otherwise, that's what I found, especially with the haiku. I'm like, you have to be very, with the 575, it's like, what can I say? How can I make this message come out in 5 syllables and 7 in 5 syllables and still makes sense? So, yeah, I find that it's fun. It is challenging, but it is fun.
That's fantastic. And makes sense, but also like, I don't know if when you first started, if you realized that they would be so very available to align with other people or to connect with other people. I mean, what you write about is so very like, it just resonates. Yeah. Is that something that when you wrote it, you were like, maybe other people will connect with this too? I guess maybe what was your inspiration to share?
Sometimes the thought comes like a poem will come and I hear someone may need this. And sometimes I'll post it like that. Like, I don't know who needs to hear this, but this is what came. Other times they come from a conversation I've had with someone, and I know that as unique as we are, we're all so much alike. We all deal with the same types of frustrations and issues and things. So when I have a conversation that tends to be one that charges you in some type of emotional way, if a poem comes, I like to share it because I know whoever comes across it needs it at that moment. But it's never so thought out or planned out like I need to do this because somebody might need it. It comes and I'm like, I probably need to share this. Because if I tried to plan too much, it's not good. It
Yeah.
has to come like authentically and naturally and being flow. I do that.
Wow. So it's like this little haiku container, and you know you've got the constraints of that container, and you just go, okay, I'm going to show up in this container and see what comes.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. I've been reading
you.
Brene Brown and just the whole like human connection and just that, that we're wired for connection. When you put a poem out there, when you put a haiku or otherwise, what kind of responses are you getting or connections that you're hearing that help people to be like to go to their place of connection with you or to feel like, oh, me too, I'm not alone in this? What are they telling you?
Yeah, I so needed this right now. This was the perfect timing. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Those are the types of responses I've gotten. Sometimes I'll ask, just like, what are your thoughts and things like that, and at the end of the poem. And it's really cool because you even replied with almost a haiku on one of them.
Yes.
With the eyelids. I don't know why that stuck in my head.
That was funny because you asked for words and I just, I wasn't, like I'm telling you, it doesn't even occur to me to write a poem, but you just kind of got me in rhythm that my response was almost a haiku.
Yep. So I'm not gonna lie, I've been pleasantly surprised that of all of the posts that I've shared on my timeline, my poems have gotten the most interaction and connection. I never really set out to just like make that happen. I'm just sharing and hoping it resonates, and it has been. So that's been definitely a blessing. I'm glad.
Yeah. I think that another reason that I get so excited about you writing poetry is that I've never thought of myself as a poet. I'm going to say I shared this story on a video the other day. When I was in high school, I had a really bad English teacher who will not be named right now. But the whole year was like, this is just awful. This is terrible. And then they introduced a unit on poetry. And the first day of the unit, they said, here's the good news about poetry. You can't get it wrong. What you write is your truth. And I'm thinking, oh, this is fantastic. Like, finally, we're going to have something that I'm not feeling like this is a waste of time. So the teacher sent us home with an assignment to write a poem. So I was like, oh, this is great. So I went home and I knew blank page was really daunting at first. And then I wrote, came back the next day, turned in the poem. The following day, we got those poems back and I had an F on the paper.
That's just rude.
I thought, wait. You can't do this wrong, but you gave me an F. I don't understand. In my, teen girl state, I just was like, this mustn't be me. This mustn't be for me. I can't. And I was so frustrated and so shut down that it wasn't something I ever tried again after that. So maybe there's a day where I'll be inspired to do it again. But in the meantime, I am just in awe of people who can take that container of a poem and really, really put thoughts, emotions, inspiration, or anything into it. It's just really special to me too. So, yeah.
I'm glad. And I would surmise that you actually are a good poet just by the fact that you can write essays.
All the words.
Yes. Yep. Because that means you're very expressive. So I could probably turn an expressive essay of yours into a poem and show you how to do that. You absolutely could.
The word essence is coming to me, like you being able to take the essence of someone else's writing and then put it into a poem. I'm wondering too, the connection for me too, that I've been really curious about is how is this poetry writing journey that you're on, how is it showing up in the work that you do? as well. Maybe essence is the I don't know.
Yeah, so I've never used it specifically with clients, but some of the conversations I have and some of the responses, because I tend to be claircognizant. So as a client is sharing, I'll say something like a profound statement. Like I said something to a client yesterday. She's like, I need to write that down. It's like, I don't even know what I said, but okay. So she wrote it down. And so sometimes when I can actually hear myself say something, I'm like, that's probably a poem I need to write. Like that's how that comes out.
Yeah.
Or I'll hear someone say something like a certain phrase. I'm like, that's very poetic. That can be a poem. So I've never like necessarily used it in my guidance work, not obviously coaching, but things have come across that have created or inspired the poem. Of course, like I said, we all go through a lot of the same situations. We just feel like we're the only ones going through it. So I love the reminder that when you read stuff like that and you can resonate, you're like, I'm not the only one. Like, 'cause one of the biggest, for a while, I was supporting American Foundation for Suicide Prevention because I know, well, for one, that was me back in the day. I just know that a lot of times they just feel like they're the only ones. No one understands. They're alone. They're not seen. They're not heard. And so if I can help people feel seen, heard, understood in any way that I can, that's what I want to do. So ideally, the poetry helps with that. Like they can read that and they can resonate. And hopefully they see that if somebody's writing that, that means they either have experienced it or witnessed it. That means I'm not the only one going through this and I
Yes.
can make it through. So,
What a gift to be able to have someone see themselves in what you write too.
thank you. Thank
What's
you.
it done for you?
It has, I don't know if I shared before, but journaling is hard for me. If I get stuck, I remember I was trying to come up with ad copy. I'm like trying to explain what I do, and writing a poem is the only way I was able to come up with how to explain what I do. So it gets my brain moving and my creative juices flowing as opposed to just writing regular full sentences.
So it's
So
really like the way that you flow in writing written form, truly like beyond, I want to just capture this emotion, but like even on the technical side of writing copy for your business or anything like that.
mm-hmm. Yeah. So the copy may not end up being a poem, but it brings to the surface like the essence or the essence of what I'm trying to say, and then I can make it a more copy format, so to speak.
It's like
Yeah.
this, what's the word? Like the conduit to get you to poetry is
Yeah.
do it for you as well.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
And I had no idea.
So that's just amazing to realize this and be able to use it in that way. So what else is it doing for you? Writing and putting it out there and having people's responses. What else is that doing for you?
It's inspiring. I'm looking at other ways of using it. I would probably a self-published author with that. I'm not sure. I am in human design. My energy type is not one to push my stuff out there. Is to be invited, and so it's challenging to not just want to go out and do. But I've experienced what happens when I go out and do nothing. Nothing happens. Like nobody shows up, nobody hears or sees me. So it's very interesting when I just do my thing the way like I've been writing the poems and it's captured and you invited me to this conversation. Like the results are so much different just with the way I'm energetically designed. I've been very slow rolling that idea of writing a book or doing anything like that because that will be an investment in time and resources. And it just wouldn't make sense for me to do it and then like it's on deaf ears. So timing is the big thing. So when the timing is right, I will definitely know. Other than that, it's like being able to journal sometimes, like when I'm talking to God or higher spirit, I'll not necessarily write in poems because I also am an automatic writer. Like I've written like when I was doing retail and someone would order something from me, I always write a thank you card. Some thank you cards are thank you for your order. I hope you enjoy it. And other ones become longer. Like it's a message that whatever they needed to hear, I'm like, well, that was random. And I know it's not random, but that's what I say. So I have a tendency to do that too. So you may have seen like on them.com, I've published a short story that was completely downloaded. There was no plans for it, and I just like, it's a 4-part series. It felt like it was going to end up being longer, but it literally, I would write and then I would stop, and I'm like, oh, okay, and then I would write and then I would stop, and it's exactly 4 parts, and it started and ended the way it started and ended. I'm like, well, that's pretty cool. So that's, yeah. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, I mean, it does, because it feels to me that like poetry is really helping to affirm for you that it shows up when it needs to. You don't need to necessarily push or force. If you show up and you're true to yourself, you don't even have to be like really, really, you don't have to construct what the result should be, because the result's going to be what it needs to be if you allow.
Yes.
Yeah.
So actually, now that you said that, that's kind of how I could use that into the business. So that's really what I'm teaching clients to do, right? Is to be in alignment with their design. And the majority of the population, 91% of the population, need to allow. They don't manifest things the way a manifesto does. So it's just show up the way you show up, and things will fall into place. Don't try to force, don't try to, like, just do you. And the things will show up that need to move that forward if it's, in alignment. That's what I've noticed once I started to really step into that more.
So it's showing up for you, which makes it that much more available for you to support others through the process as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
So I'm writing down, I keep writing down words that, like you're saying or I'm saying, I'm going to send them to you, the words that are popping out to me right now.
I love it.
Maybe there'll be a poem, maybe they won't, but you'll have the words. You can do what you want with them.
Thank you.
That's great. So then tell me, before we end our conversation, I would love to know a little bit more if there's something that you want to share about your work now and where it's going and what's up next for you and how you're showing up to serve other people and help them in alignment for themselves.
Awesome. Thank you. Yet I am in the process of creating a program. It's a 12-month program where I'll be working with people one-on-one, and mostly focused on entrepreneurs, really entrepreneur business owners, really helping them dial in the way they are energetically designed, reduce their stress, which is one of the ways to reduce stress is really being in alignment with how you're designed. Trust me, I've experienced on both spectrums. That, and just, I like to say, a deep sense of knowing. Like with entrepreneurial life, business, like, like things can be unpredictable, inconsistent. And so how do you handle that? It's just really building up the resilience and not letting things get the best of you, so that you can always have a clear head as you're navigating these crazy waters of entrepreneurial life. So that's what I'm focused on, helping them bring more calm so that they can soar. It's easier to fly when you're in a state of, okay, I got this.
Yeah. And okay, I got this, because like that deep sense of knowing of who they are as well. So learning about themselves in the journey gets them in touch with what they can get, no matter what's going on out there. I can, because I know who I am in here.
Right. Yep.
So very needed too.
Thank you.
You mentioned human design. Do you use human design in the program?
Yes. Yeah. Ever since I learned about that, like, that's when I was able to, I slowed down, I stopped doing and started being, because that is how I'm energetically designed. What I've noticed, just as reflecting back, and I know we're supposed to be closing down, but when I started reflecting back, I was like, that makes sense why that didn't go the way I planned, versus that makes sense why I'm being invited to blah, blah, blah. So it's definitely, it gave me a sense of compassion and more patience and more acceptance with different things in my life around, like, how I'm designed. Like I shared in the newsletter yesterday about the open route and how you can feel pressured to do things and you don't allow yourself to have fun until things are all done. Yeah, that was me for like much of my life. And I'm like, this, as I've gotten older, I'm like, I would like to live. The to-do list is never going to be done until I'm asleep. permanently. I did not realize that was my own energy. Like I was just repeating cycle of gotta do, and it's just because I'm absorbing other people's adrenaline to do and do and do. Yeah, it's a whole lot of things. So it's just really understanding why you do what you do on an energetic level and how you can take the power back over that. So yeah, I definitely, yeah.
Yes. And that's all, that whole alignment and just using it in the way that, well, that puts you in the flow, that puts you in that allowing, and then things just come from there. And the more you know about yourself, that's really cool. That's exciting.
Yeah,
I appreciate you joining me to have this conversation, because I've been so excited about talking about poetry with you, because that was the theme. But I just like talking with you anyway, Nicole.
nice.
Like,
Thank you. Likewise.
the last thing I want to ask though is, like, where I know that I find you on Facebook, your poetry on Facebook. Where else can people find you or connect with you?
Yeah, bewellwithnikki.com for now. When that new program launches, it will be in your wisdom wellness.
Okay. So be well with
And so
Nikki.com, but then it's in your wisdom wellness will also be a way. Okay.
yeah,
Great.
yeah,
Any
yes.
platform, be well with Nikki. And that's IKKI. All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Take care.
You too, hon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.